Welcome to episode 211 of the Necronama.com. Throughout the month of October, author and editor Alex Woodroe is joining us as we take a deep dive into Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. Today's episode is Dreams in the Witch House. All right, we're back with the 6th episode. Everybody's favorite. We all love this. No, we don't. I have not been looking forward to this, but I will say I was super happy to finally see Ron and Scabbers reunited.
And he had all his fingers.
There's going to be a lot of Harry Potter references, I think. So.
It's funny because I actually asked before the episode whether we're allowed to mention that because I was afraid like it would take up too much space if we did, but it's so hard not to mention that.
Okay, so
what is the
Alex,
Harry Potter thing you're speaking of?
Yeah, I mean it's new. It's the latest craze. But now, Alex, there's no way you could know this, but literally 2 days before we're recording this, my daughter watched the first Harry Potter for the first time.
Oh.
And she's utterly in love. She's been like making spells in the other room and like made a wand and put string on it with a feather so that she could make it float. And
yeah.
And being the person I am, I'm highly anti-JK now. But my good friend Laurel reminded me that loving Harry Potter and wizards and magic isn't bad. It's loving JK that's bad. And I think that that's really funny. And so I couldn't resist. But so then watching this, everything was so Harry Potter for me because it's all like right back in my head again, right?
Yeah.
So you have Rupert Grint, Ron, you have the rat, you have the Mirror of Erised basically in here that we're going to talk about, like all of this stuff, and I totally thought it was me. And then yesterday I'm talking to Dawn, and Dawn made a Harry Potter reference. And I was like, oh, good, it's not just me. And then we were talking with you before the show, and you said, is it okay to mention Harry Potter? And I was like, well, fuck, I think that's all we're going to talk about. But yeah. So
I actually really do love Rupert Grint as an actor, right? I like him. I think he has so much potential. I think he's genuinely good as an actor. I think he looks fantastic. I love him. But to cast him in this specific plot, with these specific characters, with that specific human-faced rat, it keeps going over and over in my mind. There are only two possible options, right? Either they did that accidentally, which is inconceivable to me. Have you been living under a rock? You cannot possibly not know that this guy used to play that character in that movie with that particular rat. You can't not know, surely. So that's not an option. It cannot be accidental, which means the only other option is that this was deliberate and they went, hey, we've got this episode, which is all about this guy's relationship with this human-faced rat who's actually ends up betraying him. What would be really funny? And they cast Rupert Grint. Like, I cannot even fathom the mind behind that. And the people who said yes, that would be very funny. That would be hilarious. Everybody's going to love it. And then Rupert fucking Grint. I'm sorry. And then Rupert Grint gets this script and reads this script. And he's like, oh, you motherfuckers. And he knows, like, clearly he knows. And yet either he or his agent or somebody says, no, I'm sorry, Rupert, you've got to do this. It's all about you and the rat, and we need to continue this saga of you and the rat, and this is going to make your career furthering the story of you and the rat.
I would like to think that when Rupert got the script, he was excited, and he was like, it's the role I was born to play.
Right.
Why on earth? Give me one good reason why this poor man would be excited.
I just imagined
Rupert, if you hear this, I apologize on behalf of humanity. I'm sorry for what we did to you.
We all know that between every time they cut, they're like, all right, Ron, that was great. Oh shit.
Oh man. All right.
No, but to speak about his ability, he was also in Knock at the Cabin
Yeah.
and played a very frightening character. My mom did not like the movie because she's the person, she can't suspend belief for like a second. But so when we watched, I said, Mom, why don't you watch Cabin in the Woods with us? She's like, I'm not watching that stupid movie again. I'm like, Mom, what, you haven't seen it? Where it's the apocalypse and this is going on. I'm like, it's not the same movie. But anyway, when Rupert Grint's character is in the film, in all honesty, you can't avoid thinking about who he is, why he's there, what's going on, and you realize, holy shit, like this guy should be getting more stuff. Not saying he's not getting anything, but he should be getting more stuff. Almost in the same vein as what you see Daniel Radcliffe doing. He's doing television here. He's got his movies. He's got a bunch of stuff that's going on.
Yeah, he's done good stuff. And I do think
when I see him
is easily that caliber, if not better.
Like, 100%.
Genuinely love him as an actor. I just wish he'd stop doing movies with rats. Jesus Christ.
Maybe that'll be his niche.
Yeah, that's his thing.
He doesn't need that thing. He doesn't. No. Stop it. He needs a rehab center for post-rat addiction.
He's gonna play Walt Disney in the new biographical representation of his life.
Oh no.
Good God.
Although Mousetrap would be hilarious.
He'll be in the Ron DeSantis biography and he'll have a fight with a mouse. Anyway, one thing I would like to say that I love about this episode is the shape of the paintings. The triangular canvas really got me.
Yeah,
okay, that's everything I liked.
Isn't it? Wait, hang on. Before we go forward, I feel super guilty because I completely forgot last episode to mention who was involved in it. So I'm going to do that now. Since last episode was Pickman's Model, so the director of that was Keith Thomas, and the teleplay is by Lee Patterson. Obviously, that was another H.P. Lovecraft original short story. And then this episode, Dreams in the Witch House, it's Catherine Hardwicke directing, and the teleplay is by Mika Watkins, and again, based on a short story by H.P. Lovecraft. How accurately is up to everybody's interpretation.
Absolutely. There's, I don't understand why they did 2 Lovecraft stories.
And then one after the other too, right? Like they were trying to get them out of the way. Has anybody else
doing them together is so weird. But then okay, so this is nothing against anyone involved in making this episode. This is legitimately what I don't understand with an anthology series like this. You already have a story about rats, and you already have an H.P. Lovecraft story, and I don't
revolving around art.
Yeah, you have an art story. Yeah, I don't feel like this episode brought enough new to this to justify being in this because there's a better rat story. It's not just another, it's a better rat story, and it's a better art story and a better H.P. Lovecraft story, in my opinion. So I don't understand the placement of this story when we could have brought in something completely different.
You could have had, I guess, like in a season 2, this would have been a good thing to include, right? Because you're not doing them back to back to back. Yeah. And you have something like the next one, which is the viewing, where you got alien, you got body horror, you got a bunch of stuff that gives you kind of a palate cleanser or a break from the previous ones, where you don't have anything that's going to be repetitious.
Yeah, this even has a chest burster scene, since you said alien, and it doesn't do it nearly as good as that movie does. So I don't know what this was supposed to bring. And again, nothing against the people who made it, because you're making your own film in this anthology. You're not involved with all of the others. You're doing your own thing. It just feels redundant, and that makes it feel unimportant to me. And I feel bad saying that.
The really interesting thing that I realized while I was watching this specific episode in this specific anthology is something I think a lot of people who watch movies and series don't think about. It's that so many people are involved in making something like this. It's not like me editing an anthology where it's basically me and the writers, right? So many people are involved in making something like this, and you never actually know when it comes to certain key decisions. You have no idea who actually made them and why, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
Unless they volunteer that stuff in interviews. And even then, sometimes, not a lot of us read interviews. Sometimes it's hard to figure it out, where to read them, whatever. So you wouldn't know something like, okay, who actually decided the order of these? Are we going to assume that the directors picked their own stories, or were they assigned these stories? Did somebody else, did Guillermo del Toro decide the specific stories? Did somebody else participate in that decision? Did the screenwriters decide? All of this stuff drastically changes what happens in this anthology, and we don't actually know who, which means that we have no idea why. Absolutely impossible. Somebody somewhere had a reason for doing this. It just didn't manage to get transmitted to us accurately for some reason, and we have no idea. It looks like one of those out of the blue random shuffle decisions. These two stories ended up mushed together. In reality, I'm betting there's something behind it, and I just can't figure out what it is, which I find fascinating in its own way, because that's what made me realize all of this. There's all of this background in every series that we have no clue about. And it would be so cool to know more about it. And I don't mean like the stuff that they do in those, the making of, because that's always like aesthetically pleasing and nice stuff that you want your general audience to know. Right?
Yeah, it's very protected.
I want the gritty stuff. I want the gory stuff. I wish I could know who had arguments with who about these episodes. I wish I could know who had to compromise with who about what. That would be fascinating. But yeah, that's my thought on why these two stories are together. Ultimately, we have no idea what went on back there, but I bet there's something to it. This isn't just chaos.
Yeah. and I don't think that it would lose. I don't even want to say lose, because that's a terrible thing to say, but I don't think it would feel better to me if they were separated and 6 episodes apart from each other. I don't think that would change it. I think I would still come back to this episode and go, why did you do this? Like you brought up the viewing, and the viewing is so different from these two things, right? And that's one of the things I love about anthologies, when you can hit like similar themes, tie-ins, but everything feels so fresh and different. And my attention deficit problems love anthologies, because everything is fast, everything is different, everything is new. And then I hit episode 6, and I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't already know that this is my least favorite episode in this, but I almost feel like that's unfair to this episode. I've read a lot of negative stuff about this episode, like, oh, the acting wasn't good, it was too stilted, or the writing wasn't up to par.
No.
And I don't think that that's true.
No.
I don't think it was Oscar worthy, but so what? What is? Nothing I would make would be Oscar worthy. So I'm not shitting on that. I think that it's not, it just doesn't feel fresh. And I think that's affecting people more.
Probably. I've loved movies with way worse acting, with way worse setting, with way worse pacing, and I mean, absolutely adored them. So it's not enough. I feel like a lot of times reviewers for movies and books, they don't like something, and then after that they try to figure out the reasons why, and they end up on a lot of this like insider technical stuff, like, oh, the pacing was off, or the acting felt stilted. In reality, that's not what you actually didn't like about it. You just profoundly, like on a feeling level that cannot be explained, you did not feel that episode or that movie or that book. And then afterwards, you added all these causes on top of it to try to explain it, when I don't think that that's always necessary. I think we push people to have to ration, or to bring a reason of why they didn't like something. And I think it should be perfectly fine and normal for people to just not like it. And that's it. That's the end. Like, that is so okay. And I fully believe in that. Like, I just did not vibe with this. I wasn't feeling it. That's it. And so that's why I think we get a lot of, oh, the acting was stilted or the pacing was off. Like, if you're general audience, you shouldn't even know the word pacing. If you're realistic, you should have no idea what pacing is or why it's off or why it isn't. You should just be enjoying things and not enjoying things. That's my hot take of the day. Please cancel me on Twitter for that one.
Oh my God.
I would, but no one would be reading it.
Yeah, it's nice. I get to say whatever the hell I want now. There are no more consequences.
That's the only reason I still have a Twitter account or an X account or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I can post anything now, and no one I respect will read it because they've all left.
Yeah, isn't that lovely?
But no, I agree with everything you just said. Don, do you have anything to add?
No, I was going to say it comes down to that same issue of your perspective and what kind of hits for you. Because I've said this before on this show, I've said it on panels. There's no such thing as a bad TV show, movie, story, anything like that. Does it work for you? Because there are things that we would all say like, oh, this story sucked, this movie sucked, I didn't like it, I didn't like it, I didn't like it. But then there are people who love it.
Yeah.
And this is no way, since you're talking about canceling, I'm going to go after the Swifties right now, or I should say they're going to go after me. I don't care for Taylor Swift. I don't have anything against her.
It's been really nice knowing you, Don. I really, really enjoyed our time together. I need you to know that.
But
as my co-host, Alex makes a great point. We can't have you as a guest any longer, Don.
But it's one of those things of like, it's not for me. So I'm not going to deny anybody else, who likes it. I'm not going to. Another phrase I took from a TV show long time ago, which is, don't yuck someone's yum. Mm-hmm. If somebody enjoys whatever it is they're consuming, whatever they're, whether it's food or whether it's entertainment or anything like that, as long as it's not hurting anyone, why should it matter whether or not you like it? Because it serves the same function as somebody's eating a food that you don't like. Like, I think I love goulash. I haven't had it in years, right?
Oh my gosh, Don, you have to visit right now.
I will. Send me a ticket. I'll be there. But no, I would definitely go. But no, like I used to have it all the time, and we would get it in school, which was weird because we got like really good food when I was in elementary school. We would get goulash, and then I would have people say like, "Oh my God, that looks so nasty. Why are you eating?" I'm like, "It's fucking delicious.
It is the best.
It's delicious."
And it's so good for you too, for being food that's like comfort food, like stick to your ribs food. It's genuinely really good for you too. That's fantastic. You almost never see that mixture of things. No, I love that food so much. I actually was thinking about this time I was posting, I was fermenting lemons. I have this recipe for like salt brining limes and lemons that you then use during the winter to make like a sort of cold remedy. They're super particular and weird and yummy. And I was posting about them and somebody replied, "Wow, that looks disgusting."
Yeah.
And I thought, well, fuck you, right? Like did you think I was going to ever be friends with you after a comment like that? Like, I'm sorry, I don't even care about your existence anymore after that. Like, just let me enjoy my thing, especially when it comes to preferences like food or movies or books. Like, you're not hurting anybody. Let people enjoy what they're enjoying. You cannot like it. It's fine. You don't have to make yourself salty lemon lemonade. It's fine. You don't need to eat it. No, you don't need to drink it. Nobody's forcing you.
That's always my response. Did you think I was sharing with you? Because I'm not.
Right.
Like, no. If it's something that I love this much, you're not fucking touching it.
Like,
did you think you were making friends with that? Like,
yeah. Right? Like, James knows how much I hate cheese. Like, I don't.
All of it?
No, not all. I mean, there's some cheeses I can actually eat, and it's not a thing like lactose intolerant. It's just I don't like the taste of it. Okay. There's certain white cheeses or spicy cheeses I'll have, but like if you're talking about like a sharp cheddar or the stinky cheeses stuff, like I cannot bring myself to it. Yeah, so yesterday when we were talking, he sent me some pictures of food from this one or a couple of restaurants in Iowa. And it was like a macaroni and cheese like the bun for the burger was macaroni and cheese, and then it had
Mhm.
This place is called Zombie Burger. Okay, it's a horror themed burger place, and they
Okay.
had this burger called the Walking Ched.
Clearly, they were
And-
calling your name.
And I was trying to explain to him how Iowa will just eat themselves to death and how great it is visiting.
And then come
but I
back
couldn't.
as zombies that also
But
eat
like
cheese.
if I stayed too long, I would just die from the food there. And so the Walking Ched, it doesn't have a bun. It has fried mac and cheese with like a breading, and then
Yeah,
they
that
make
would put
buns
me in the
out
grave.
of this.
That would
And then
put me in
it's-
the grave. I'm not even
And then
kidding.
it's 3 burgers
No.
with cheddar
No,
on every
Jesus
burger,
Christ. No.
and then mac and cheese on top.
No.
Yeah. And I haven't had this, but I stare at this going, that might be
Yeah,
my
no.
line. Like
No.
I might die eating that. I don't think I can go there.
Oh.
And
I'm
yeah,
telling you-
so this burger, I sent it to him when he doesn't like cheese. Yeah.
But even then, I didn't look at it as like, oh my god, it's not for me.
Yeah.
It's not for me. But with this episode, there were some great moments that worked.
I love
You know?
Dawn is dragging us back to the episode.
No, I have to, because there was this one scene.
Yeah.
I mean, there were several good scenes, right? But there's this one scene where
Okay.
they're of course making references to different parts of history or whatever. Actually, let me start over this way. So this basic story is it's a brother and sister twins. The twin sister dies, and the twin brother sees her soul like leave and go into like this forest of lost souls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he spends like 20 years trying to find his sister. Joins like a ghost or a paranormal association, all this other stuff that's going on. And what was really cool about this was it shows how a traumatic experience itself can then shape you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And when people act as though, oh, this was bad, get over it. This was bad, get over it. Oh, you'll live, get over it. That happened so long ago. To try and convince you like to get over your trauma. And it's not easy. You see how this guy is consumed by it. And when he eventually has his body taken, that line will never, in fact, let me read it the full way. Or maybe I won't. So
Okay.
the idea of the idea that Rupert Grint's character wasn't doing anything with the body, like he was wasting his life. So you have that perspective from Jenkins the rat, telling him like, you wasted your life. Like, why are you doing this? You didn't have to do any of this. I mean, as far as like what you're absorbing from this conversation, you were wasting this body when you could have been doing all these other things that you wanted to do with your life.
Yeah, but it's not a choice, is it? Like,
exactly.
I don't want to be under this either. I didn't choose to be under this. I did not choose to carry this baggage that other people put on me, that life put on me before I was old enough to even understand the concept of baggage. I didn't decide any of that. And holding on to it isn't my choice either. It just won't let me go. It's holding on to me. And that's absolutely something that a lot of people carry, and I think a lot of people would identify with. Yep.
Well, and he thinks that he can solve it. Like he thinks if he finds her, it will fix it.
Don't we all? Yep.
Right.
And it affects the people around him too, because like there was this whole other guy who had for a long time joined him for no other reason than believing in him. So that guy didn't even have a personal reason. That guy just wanted to help him out. And he was involved in this until he literally couldn't anymore, until he was literally at the point of either I go do something else or I'm probably going to starve. So it affects everybody around you too, even if you're not realizing it. Yeah.
Just a shame. But what was, you also have these historical connections because they refer to Hitler as the vegetarian Superman, which I thought was really funny because that was, I mean, other than talking about him being a vegetarian all the time, he talked about the Ubermensch, the idea of there is something that's better and we should esteem to it, right? This is I want to preface, this is in no way me saying anything positive about Mr. Mustache Man. I'm just saying the way in which he was talked about in the press in the early days, it was, he turned the economy around in his country. He did this, he did this, he did, and he's doing a lot of nefarious shit. But they were so focused on it was kind of like in the U.S. because I can't speak for anybody else because I don't know of any other country having the same stupid argument. When the shutdowns happened because of COVID or due to COVID, it was we gotta think about the economy. And you had politicians literally saying that it's okay if grandma and grandpa died. We don't need to shut down because they're more susceptible to COVID. We don't need to shut down because we need to make sure the economy's still going. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's exactly what happened to us during communist dictatorship. Hi, everybody listening who has fallen out of the sky. I'm from Romania. It's exactly what happened to us, right? Being under dictatorship, under communist dictatorship, we were one of the few countries, I think, in the world who completely eradicated their entire national debt. Romania was no longer in debt to anybody. National debt, all gone. Right? That is immense. That is unheard of. That is improbable. Wow. And that's a very good thing, right? That's fantastic. All national debt completely paid off. Wow. I mean, people had to die, many people had to die. Many people had to starve to death. Many had to be executed. But, all national debt erased. Wow. Isn't that awesome?
That's crazy. Yeah.
But, the I guess there's this point where he's part of this club because it's not really I want to find that there are ghosts. I want to find my sister. And I remember seeing him go into one of these clubs, and I always think that there's something there's usually something hidden in the music, in the soundscape, in the background, in a lot of horror. And I try to be more sensitive to it. So when it came to when his character was William, I think Walter, when Walter was going into that spot, there was a woman singing, and I immediately thought, like, hold on a second, I know some of the shit she's singing. I know what she's saying, and I was thinking, I was like, there's got to be something more to this. So the actress, or the singer, Gabby Moreno, was singing a song called Mal Hombre, which the lines go like this: I was still a little girl when you coincidentally found me, and at the mercy of your worldly arts, on my honor, you took the perfume. Then you did with me what everyone, wait, that's a bad translation. Those who like you with women, therefore do not be surprised that I now in your face can tell who you are. You're a bad man. Your soul is so mean that it has no name. You are a scoundrel. You are evil. You are a bad man. To my sad destiny abandoned, I engaged in a fierce fight with life. She was strong and cruel, torturing me. I, weaker, finally fell defeated. You knew my defeat in time. You knew my horrible ordeal. Some told you, go save her. And proving who you were, you laughed. Bad man. Your soul is so mean that it has no name, blah, blah, blah. And it keeps going, right? So it's just outstanding how they throw that in there in a way of foreshadowing, right? Because it's talking about who he is and what he's doing, but also talking about this other entity that's there. And the fact that he's so blinded by, I need to go save my sister. I need to go save my sister. I need to go save my sister. He's ignoring, not that he was going to be picking up on the Spanish or Latin that the woman was singing in, but he's missing all these signals that he should probably just turn around. Start a family of his own. Maybe if he has a daughter, name the daughter after his sister.
Bear with me if I'm going out way on a limb right now, but I just thought of this as you were reading that song, which you're right, that's something. Like, that is, first of all, beautiful, and second of all, that's something, that's deliberate. You're totally right. What if the song is talking about him too, though? What if the song is suggesting that Walter is a bad man? Because we get a lot of the story, is from his perspective. We get his tribulations, his trauma. But one thing that we already know for sure out in the real world is that people who are carrying trauma inflict further trauma, right? We know that. Hurt people hurt people.
Right.
And who knows how many people in his life have been horribly hurt and harmed irreparably by his actions. Who knows how many, women had hoped and hinged hopes on him that he, who knows, led on and then dashed because he's completely unavailable, because he's single-mindedly focused on this one thing he can never have. Who knows how many people he convinced to invest in his endeavor who lost money, maybe their last money in that. And we get a glimpse of that with his colleague, right? There's this point when his colleague, whose name I can't remember, Frank, right? Frank wants to quit. Frank wants to quit, and that's not something that Frank decided yesterday. That's been a long time coming, right? Frank has been thinking about this for a while. He's been having a really hard time. And I sort of have that feeling that Frank is struggling to leave from under this influence and under this pressure, which is like pretty typical of somebody who is narcissistic and abusing the people around him. It's hard to get out from under him. So Frank wants to quit for a very good reason, not just because he wants to, even though he would have the right to quit for any reason, right? But he has a very good reason. He cannot financially afford to do this anymore, right? And if we're talking about I might not be able to put food on the table tomorrow, then of course you're going to have to quit. And Walter goes, I thought you believed in the cause. Right, which is so manipulative, and it's giving somebody a guilt trip and trying to make them feel bad for leaving you, even though they clearly need to. And he goes, I thought you believed in the cause, so money trumps honor, and he makes his own personal quest a matter of honor for somebody else, which again is massively manipulative. It is in no way a matter of honor for anybody but him. Right. And he does this whole spiel that we hear in the arts a lot. Oh, you should be doing this for the love. You should be doing this for the honor. Oh, you're leaving. That means money is more important to you. Now, first of all, anybody listening, no, you deserve to be paid for everything you are doing that is work. You deserve to be paid. You deserve to be able to put food on the table. Whenever somebody needs you for something, you should be getting paid for that thing. It's pretty much obvious and clear. And second of all, those manipulative tactics, that does not actually scream good person. We like Walter and we relate to him because we know why he's doing the things he's doing and because we know he's hurting. But if you look at it from the outside a little bit, and if we consider that what we see between him and Frank is just a tiny sample of what he does to everybody in his life, he is a horrible fucking person.
Yeah,
I agree.
1000%.
I just realized that, and now I love the episode way more than I did before.
And I have to say, what do you mean about out on a limb?
Yeah,
when are you going out on the limb? When are you going out on the limb?
Because I just didn't realize that while I was watching the episode. I swear I didn't. It wasn't until you read me the lyrics of that song. I realized I was such a dumbass. I didn't realize that at all. No.
So I totally. I think that's the thing that I like about this episode. That is the feeling that I got, that he's a bad man, but it never feels, well, I shouldn't say never. It mostly doesn't feel purposeful. I don't think that he's necessarily trying to manipulate Frank. I think he literally is just so focused on his goal that he's like, what do you mean you're leaving? It's not even about Frank. This is an inconvenience to me and my goal, right? And I think there's a huge difference between that and purposely manipulating somebody. But that's what I like about the character.
I disagree, because I think if I think about real life, right? Do I believe that the worst person I've ever met was being deliberately the way he was? No, not for a second. I think if he had had a choice to feel different feelings and take different actions, I think he would have. I think he was one of the most horrible people I've ever met because he couldn't be anything else and couldn't feel different feelings. And for him, that translated into really terrible and harmful behavior. But I don't believe that, necessarily deliberate versus not deliberate is the real distinction there. Because I think a lot of people who cause horrible harm, serial killers, I don't believe they're necessarily doing that deliberately. I'm not sure. I think if at birth they'd given them a form that said, "Would you like to be a serial killer for your lifetime?" I think only some of them would have said yes, if they'd had the option. So I do believe that
No,
Frank is
that makes
not like,
sense. Yeah.
he's not deliberately, cleverly cruel. He's not a Wall Street investor. That's a whole different kind of evil. But I still think it's pretty bad. Like, it is objectively, the effects are really bad.
No, I like that. I think I don't think that I said what I'm trying to say properly, but I agree with everything you just said.
Sorry.
I think I mean more like I think that he literally doesn't think about anybody else. So
yeah, totally.
I don't get like the malicious aspects you get from some other characters, right? Like, and that's more where I was going with it. But yeah, I do agree with what you said, that it's not a choice, and I will say I would have probably checked yes, I want to be a serial killer, and because I wouldn't have understood at birth, and I just
That whole reading thing.
I guess I would have asked how many goes around I get first, because if it's just the one, then I'll pass probably.
You gotta get a punch card for it.
Man, oh man!
All right, it's your 5th time. You gotta be a serial killer this time. Okay, next
week,
next cycle around, you get to be a regular person.
Then on number 13, you've got to be a lawyer.
Oh man.
A corporate lawyer at that.
Oof.
No.
Oof. They couldn't even let me have environmental law. Damn it.
Oh man.
Right.
I love, and the thing is, when I watch this, the credits tell you who's in the film, and it's like, oh, DJ Qualls, and thinking like, oh, this will be interesting because he jokes about him being kind of a goofy looking guy and weird.
I love
strange,
DJ,
right? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, when am I going to get my goofy moment where DJ Qualls shows up? And I didn't realize until after I watched him, like, oh shit, he was the fucking rat. He was the rat the entire time, right?
Oh, was that not goofy enough for you?
No. I mean, as far as like without any CGI, without any process, I just mean as far as like he shows up and does something goofy, weird, funny. And his lines in this are outstanding.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing of like, smells like poverty. I laughed so hard because this guy is reading, or this rat is reading him so much, where it's like, he's basically telling him all the things that, I shouldn't say he's telling him all the things that he's done wrong, but he's telling him, you had opportunities, like, and not saying that poverty is something that you can control, but it was something for him because you see, the life, you get a glimpse of the life that he had when he was growing up, and the fact that he has enough disposable income to participate in an organization like this, because you never see him going to a job. You never see him working, a 9-to-5 or in industry or anything like that.
He's bartending, isn't he?
Oh, there is a scene?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. So he ran through his money.
Yeah,
because he kicks Frank out.
Yeah.
That's right. So there's that moment where you realize like he's pushed so many people and things and opportunities away because, again, this thought has consumed him.
Yeah. Even the fact that he has that bartending job, it's like, oh, if he wasn't doing all of this, that job would have probably been fine. Again, because also he was clearly born in a family of means, and he's able-bodied. He clearly has means and opportunity, and he's an intelligent fellow, and he's got this job that should have been fine for him if he hadn't actually chosen to do away with all that money. Definitely.
Right.
It is strange to see that sort of like chosen poverty.
Speaking of his family, where were these parents when his sister was dying? They're nowhere to be seen.
They were cashing the insurance policy.
They were inconvenient.
He doesn't run out and yell, the kid with the dumb name, she's no.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, they were probably killed by Voldemort, I guess.
Oh man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, no.
So these are
Look,
Weasleys. They probably
yes.
didn't notice they had another child.
Exactly. They have to look at the clock. Wait a second. Epperle's in the Forest of Lost Souls. Damn it, that's the third kid.
Damn it! Did
So,
she
yeah.
activate the flu network again? Is that right? Is that I don't even remember.
No, like that. Maybe that's how. Well, never mind. I'm overthinking this episode. But even with this idea of going into that I wrote this over time and time again. I said, quit fucking with shit. Quit fucking with shit. Don't make ripples. Quit fucking with shit. And the idea of the dead required a sacrifice. Oh my God. That was such, for me, again, it was a really cool touch of this person is here. The only way you can bring somebody, because your sister died. The only way you can bring somebody back is there has to be some sort of sacrifice, as far as like you've got to give something to get something. Which again, it's a really cool way that you can explain the way that the supernatural world works. You want to bring somebody back, you got to sacrifice somebody.
It's also a really cool way of explaining how the human brain works and the things that we are willing to do when we have that sort of like single-minded purpose, right?
Right.
And I left this to myself as a note too. Like, how do you never, not even once in this entire life that you've had, go, shit, what if the things that I do end up having actual consequences? Right? How do you never not once ask yourself that? And is it nice to live in that universe? Because like I worry about that constantly. How does he manage to not even once remotely consider that option?
I think he's looking at the ends justify the means, right? So he's not thinking about any of the consequences that he's going to be in receipt of, or the consequence that other people are going to receive because of his actions. It's so myopic and tunnel vision with this. It's
nothing matters because it's all for his sister.
Exactly.
I wonder whether that comes from the feeling that her being taken away was unjust to begin with, and all he's doing is returning justice to the world, which is something that I relate to very much. I have this sort of like almost obsessive need to have everything be just and correct and fair to people. So I could see myself, if I felt like that was deeply unjust and unfair, just doing extreme and ridiculous things to return balance and fairness to the world, which is a terrible sort of coping mechanism and mind frame to be in, because there's no such thing as justice and fairness. It's a myth. We make it up to explain the world to ourselves. It doesn't exist.
No. And even when it came to, because I brought this up to James when we were talking the other day, that you've got this car analogy, or at least this idea of a dog chasing a car, and once you catch the car, what are you going to do?
Yes.
So his whole quest is, I got to find my sister, got to bring her back, And my question is, and then what? Like, how are you going to explain that you're bringing back this little child? How are you going to actually incorporate her into her life? Like, what is going to change about you? Like, because it seems as though he's only, like, a lot of times, and this was, I guess, 30 years ago or whatever, it was brought up to me about how sometimes cancer, like terminal patients themselves, they hold on because they're waiting to finish something, or they need something to happen. And it's like they happen to live past the timeline that medical professionals have given them. So 6 months, my daughter's going to have her wedding in 9 months. And they watch their daughter they see their daughter get married. Not that you're going to plan a wedding 9 months in the future when you got a 6 month deadline. But the whole idea of like, oh, I just want to see my grandchild born, or I want to see my daughter, or I want to do whatever it is, right? And you see that there were all these people that once whatever goal it was met, they passed. And even with, I think it was 2004 with the Boston Red Sox, there was a joke about the Red Sox going to I almost said the Super Bowl. Jesus. The Red Sox going to the World Series.
That would be strange.
That would be very weird. But how the Boston Red Sox were going to the World Series, and it was an election year. And there were people literally in their 80s and their 90s because they hadn't seen the Red Sox. The Red Sox have sucked for so long.
Mhm.
They're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to win the World Series. It's going to be great. And there were people actually saying this might not be a good thing for the Northeast because you're going to have so many people dying off because they were able to see the Red Sox. I was worried that Bill Murray was going to die after the Cubs won. Not that he's getting up there, but I seriously thought like, oh my God, this is like the biggest Cubs fan I know, and he's getting up there. Like they're gonna win, and next thing you know, we're not going to have any more Bill Murray. He's going to be gone for the second time. That was a nice little Zombie Land reference. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, James. I only regret Garfield. But
most people do.
But with it being election year, people were worried, like, Bush could get reelected because, which he ended up getting reelected anyway, because it was a shitty candidate he was running against. But he could win again because the Boston Red Sox have won. He could actually win Massachusetts because it's going to kill off so many people. There was like a little bump in the number of people who died right after that, but it wasn't anything massive. Yeah, there was but you couldn't attribute it to that. It was just simply you had a lot of elderly people. It was just one of those things where it was older people dying. But yeah, that was the fear. I know of one case where somebody died after the World Series, and the family was saying like he got to see the Red Sox win. And I remember seeing it on the news. I'm like, this is a weird story for you guys to run about somebody who died. I mean, they died happy, I guess, but they died after watching the Red Sox win the World Series, not the Super Bowl.
That is so weird to think of how much power our brains actually have over our bodies. It makes me think of this super common legend here. I don't know if it's statistically significant or not. I have no idea. Do not take this as research of any kind. It's just hearsay from a lot of people, but just hearsay of couples, elderly couples where one of the two passes away and then the other one immediately after. And apparently in Romania, that is incredibly common. On a scary level of incredibly common, where I hope nobody researches it because it's that weird. I'm not sure I want to know the results of that research. But yeah, it's so strange how much power brain has over body sometimes.
It's a similar thing here, like in the American South, where you have couples that have been together 50, 60 years. Yeah. And the husband will die and 6 months later the wife will die, or vice versa. And that was even with like Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash. June Carter Cash died, and I remember at the time, it was the early 2000s. Somebody said, "Well," I said, he and his wife were together for so long. Hopefully, he does well." And I think for him, it was less than a year. Yeah. And then when he died, people close to him said like he missed June. Yeah. And it was just one of those things of, I don't know if it was the grief that really put him in poorer health, but
or coincidence, or a poorer diet all of a sudden.
Yeah, but people close to him,
he's not forcing him to eat good.
The man only wants to make toast. Give him a break. Well, a year is all he had on that diet anyway.
And then there are people like me. I'm like, do you not remember what Johnny Cash used to party? It's not right. And I'm not saying that's what did it, but
so did Ozzy Osbourne, and he's still around. So
yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. Sometimes
meanwhile, I'm over here making ridiculous jokes. I'm over here like, and then my grandpa died, and only 41 years later, my grandma died.
Wow,
she was so distraught. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That was horrible. Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Well, no. My grandfather was an abusive, alcoholic piece of shit, and none of us cared. Sorry. So
Yeah, way less sorry now.
He kind of did the world a favor driving into the back of a tractor. But no. So I was really thinking. I hope so. I don't know, but So I was legitimately making that joke in my head, like, oh, and then my grandma only lived another 41 years. I'm like, that's fucking hilarious because while that does definitely happen, we also just draw like these weird conclusions.
We do,
and like you even said, is it coincidence or however you said it exactly? But like I always wonder, like, how much of that is just, hey, we're talking about two people who are 86,
Yes.
or
Right.
Yes.
things like that. I
We love to
definitely
make
do believe
sense.
it happens.
Yeah, we love to make sense of things that don't make sense. We love to draw these little, to look at stars and draw little figures in them. We love to do that. It's part of being human. And
Mhm.
sometimes I lean into it just because it's such a beautiful part of being human. Whether or not it's true, I don't even care. I just like that we do
Exactly.
it.
I mean, that's creativity. So that's
Yeah.
what we all do, right? Like,
It's what we do with
amazing.
movies too when we talk about them. If you think about it, we're looking at these little dots and drawing conclusions, which may or may not, like the writers could be listening to us and our theories about why that song is there and what it's representing, and going, "What the fuck are these guys on?" And can I have some? I mean,
We're
I'm
on space
glad they.
cocaine. We're on space cocaine.
That woman was blackmailing me. I had to play this
Yes,
song.
yes. And
Space
speaking of,
cocaine is my favorite line in the next episode.
Oh my
Don.
God.
we're not allowed to talk about that yet. No, we are not allowed to. I refuse. Do not even mention that episode yet.
All right, I'll go. Thanks for the space cocaine. Where are we?
We were talking about drawing lines in this movie and figuring stuff
Yeah.
out. And the thing is, I noticed something and I have no idea if it means anything or not. And I'm channeling my inner Dawn here, right? Because I'm not actually somebody who looks into subtext. You've probably noticed from talking with me about movies, I'm not very good at that stuff. I'm very surface level. But
You're
like,
very wrong, but okay.
please. I just realized that they were suggesting that Walter might be a bad man. Come on.
Keep going. Where are we at here?
But like, is it interesting, the sort of gender distribution of the characters in this movie, where a lot of these like mystical characters are women, right? You've got the medium, the witch,
Right.
the painter, the priestess, and the sister. It's like a freaking tarot deck. It's like a major arcana of women. And then
Ooh.
you've got these guys that are sort of all three of them, I guess. Walter and Frank, which are the real world feet in the ground characters, and the rat, which is like the major evil character of the story, major bad guy. I don't know whether that's something. I don't know whether there just happened to be that sort of distribution, but I really liked the way that these women were splayed out like a deck of cards, and each of them was so mystical and different from the other. And I don't know. I just thought it was a cool aesthetic. I have no idea if it actually means anything or not.
Wow.
Well,
That's super cool.
It could go into, the lore itself, or I shouldn't even say the lore, just the misconceptions or the representation of women as witches, or they have some type of connection to the other world, and it's not something that men can have. So, I mean, it could be used as a way, like we've seen with other works, it could be used as a way to be xenophobic, sexist, whatever, as far as like, these are the problems, these are the ones that are deceitful, these are the ones that are making these things possible.
And actually,
I mean,
now that you mentioned the lyrics, I would add the musician to that list as well.
Yeah. Because you even have to think about, like, in American society at this time, women were getting put in sanitariums for just anything.
Yes.
I mean, literally anything.
Yes.
And it always
had a
tripped me out.
fainting spell, sanitarium.
Yeah.
Was upset, sanitarium. Had a fever, sanitarium. Has a cough, sanitarium. Yep.
And then accidentally inherited land, sanitarium.
Yes. Had a political opinion, sanitarium.
These women are hysterical. And
they just don't want to vote for your guy, buddy.
Exactly. Like the women of that period, when you had diseases coming out, or at least diseases being created that were supposed to be female centric, right?
Yeah.
So hysteria came from the, as far as the prefix hyster with the uterus.
Yeah, from the uterus.
So the idea that these women are hysterical, it means that their uterus and their female reproductive organs have taken over their mental capacities.
Crawled out of their body, right? I'm going to let you imagine through where. Crawled out of their body and taken a chokehold around their neck and is now controlling their actions. Yes.
Actually, I would watch that movie.
Yes, me too.
I'm just imagining the fallopian
novella
tubes
for us.
wrapping around somebody's neck.
Write that novella for us, please, and send it to me.
Here,
Um,
fallopia.
that's a good one. Yes. I died laughing this morning. I saw some sort of post on like Reddit or something when somebody was making fun. You know, the classical, oh, my girlfriend's being hysterical and she wants the dishes done a specific way. And it was just this woman who was making fun of that whole concept. And she posted, oh, my boyfriend's being testerical. And I thought that was so
That's
good.
amazing.
I'm going to use that. It's so good. It's fantastic. Whoever came up with testerical, I love you.
Oh, I'm keeping that now. I would, and I'm like, well, normally I would say testy, but nope.
Hysterical.
You're being testerical.
Being a little testy. I like that.
A little testy or like fully testerical right now.
You got to hit that little testy joke just so that they are immediately. Well,
Testy.
my balls are huge. Yeah, you know.
Oh wait. I feel like we're getting close to like having no time left for this episode. So before we do that, I do need to ask you guys a question. It wouldn't be one of our episodes if I wasn't asking you guys a ridiculous question. It's only one this time, but no, actually I have two. Don't worry, I have like 12 for the next episode. So the first one for this one is, we all get his obsession, right? That's a major part of this plot. Have you ever done anything occult adjacent? Like as a teen or whatever, have you ever done anything that, if it had worked, could have potentially had consequences?
Under the recommendation of my attorney, I'm going to invoke my Fifth Amendment right
again. That's like 450 times in one day. That's amazing.
Afforded to me in the U.S. Constitution. Yeah, I did shit like that when I was. Well, actually, I've done stuff like that when I was an adult. But I mean, I
do stuff like that now.
But I mean, it's. I think when I was younger, I misunderstood like my family's connection with voodoo as far as like understanding how it worked. So I just thought like if I willed something to happen, it was going to happen to that person. So this is in no way me claiming anything or discounting anything. I just want to add that disclaimer.
Yeah.
But after my grandmother died on my father's side, she died in 2000. Weird shit happened to people who did things to me. So there was this one girl I was working with, and my manager had set me up with one of the coworkers, right? And we would just hang out. We'd watch movies, watch Super Bowl, whatever. So we were like, oh, let's hang out. I'm not going anywhere for the Super Bowl. You're not going anywhere. Why don't we just hang out and watch the Super Bowl together? So we went to Walmart to go get some snacks, go watch the football game. And one of our coworkers saw us and then immediately went to the manager and said, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so, I saw them together, and you're not supposed to be dating coworkers at this job, and blah, 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 blah. And my friend who was the manager told me, he's like, yeah, you guys can't be seen together. If you guys are together, then one of you needs to leave, but you can't be seen together because it looks wrong. And I'm like, we're not together. We're just hanging out. Like there's not a relationship here. So when I found out that who it was who had said something, in my head, I'm thinking like, I hope you fall down some fucking stairs. You're a horrible person. Next day, I get a phone call at work.
No, you're not going to say no.
Hi, this is so-and-so's roommate. I'm calling because she had an accident in the dorm.
No.
I'm like, what? She fell down the stairs, like one of the stairwells. Yeah. I kid you not. So like, it was weird because for a period, like if somebody did something wrong to me, like I was wronged, something bad happened to them.
Don, have I mentioned how much I respect and love you as a human being? Deeply and profoundly. I think so highly of you.
I heard she's really intimidated by you.
I really think you're the best host of this entire show.
Oh my God.
I agree with that.
Best podcaster I've ever heard.
Oh my God, stop.
Such a deep well of respect for you.
Let me tell you something, Alex. as much as we had conversations, trust me, you have nothing to worry about. There are a lot of other people that are on that list.
If he hasn't taken me out by now, you're fine.
James has seen one of those.
Yeah.
James has seen one of those people in person, and he was kind of like, "Come on, man, do something."
Actually, now that I think about it, can I give you my list too? Just
Oh
read
no,
it.
you're
I'm not
only
saying
allowed
do
to ask
anything.
questions.
I'm
No.
not saying do anything. Just look at it, glance at it.
Oh,
that's
gosh.
amazing.
You had to ask that question. So I left names out. I remember names, but I left names out just in case that person claims that, I don't know, in the future, there's some lawsuit that involves magic and we discover that people have always been magical and now people are going to be held accountable. But yeah, I had to I
if you were magic, you would have gotten a letter on your 11th birthday. And,
but I don't know how that works within the American school system. That's the
Oh no,
Yeah.
it would
follow-up
It
stories.
would have been a bill. They would have sent you the bill in advance.
Here, you've been accepted, but you need it's going to cost you $50,000 a year in tuition.
You've been accepted to pay tuition. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, America.
I know. I'm just like we have the I guess the ego of a place that has free and universal education, and we eat like people who have free and universal healthcare.
Yeah.
Like I don't get it. Like I'm too. I know it's ironic to call yourself humble, but I'm like I'm not that. I'm not that egotistical to where I'm kind of like, yeah, I know exactly what I'm talking about all the time. That's why I also said, don't be intimidated by me. I joke with people. I'm like, I'm dumb.
Well, I definitely think I'm dumb, but
that's because we all
really
have
smart.
imposter syndrome.
We're all okay. I didn't think that was where you were going. I thought you were going to say that's because we're all really smart.
No, that would be a James joke because James likes to take shots.
SMRT. Oh.
James, how about you? Have you ever done anything occult?
Oh man, I really thought I was getting out of this. I was sitting here quietly, letting you guys go.
Tell me.
All right. So I've done a lot of stuff, I guess. But the story I want to share with you is the weird one. So I went to Catholic high school, as I've mentioned on here repeatedly, and so being the good Catholics we were, we went and got a Ouija board and we were playing with it. And some weird stuff happened. Like this girl that was there, basically, she didn't have a seizure, but it was like seizure-like, right? And it was really tied in with like the question we asked and some different stuff, and it was fucking weird. So then, being the brilliant, drunk 16-year-olds we were like, we need to burn this fucking thing. And so we took this Ouija board out to a park, and my buddy broke it over his knee, so it was broken in half, right? And then they tried lighting it, and like it would start on fire, and then the fire would go out. Mm-hmm. And then they were adding like lighter fluid to it, and the same thing would happen. And I believe all of this to just be whatever it's fucking coated in, right? Humidity. But like when you're drunk and 16, and it's the middle of the night, and you're doing this, it's creepy as fuck. Mm-hmm. And this took like an hour for us to destroy this Ouija board. And to this day, I have friends that like won't talk about it, and like they were there, and they're like, no, I wasn't there, and like that's weird to me. But for me, it just like that opened more doors. Like I've always been the person. I don't necessarily believe in ghosts, but I want to. I don't know why, but I want to, and so. Like when I experience things, I become the skeptic who has to explain what I experienced, right? And I have to find reasons it wasn't true. But when I can't, those moments stay with me. And I play with tarot, and I wouldn't call myself an occultist by any means. Like these are all very doorway occult things, right? Like they're not the real dark occult stuff. I have friends who do real stuff, and I'm not comparing myself to that at all. But I just feel like these things that I can't explain drive me in a way. Like they're the things that I keep thinking about, and they're the things I keep researching. And the more I research, the more I realize, hey, I've gone another step over here, or
Mhm.
hey, I'm looking at this thing over here that I wouldn't have considered 5 years ago,
Right.
or I'm talking to this person who actually does these rituals, or asking them things to just try to learn more. And so I don't think that I've done anything compared to what your original question was, so much as I'm fascinated by my
no, I think
inability to let it go.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Hmm.
always next to it, wanting to know more.
I think the thing is that if these things were going to have consequences, what we all did is absolutely plenty enough to reach those consequences. Yeah. And we all did it without necessarily thinking of them. I was just thinking, James, can you imagine if those friends of yours who refused to admit they were there are doing that because they're still struggling to get out from under whatever attached to them that day? Like they're blatantly refusing to admit they were there because something happened.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know whether that's true or not. Could have happened. Maybe you got lucky.
See,
Maybe.
now I need Alex to say something creepy, like when we have Spirited and Stoker. I need you to just walk in and just say something with your accent. Just something. You grab somebody's hand and you're like, 7 more years. you just walk
Oh my
away.
God, that would be amazing.
I can't even tell what my accent sounds like because I'm obviously used to it, but I sure hope it fascinates the horror people because that would make me sad.
Trust me.
It will.
Yeah. There will be
and
nothing.
that also comes from just years of like movies hitting us with different accents, or
Mhm.
just that mystical superstition or stereotypes or whatever else,
Do I sound like what movies make like Romanian people sound like? Is my accent like that? Yeah?
Yes. Oh,
I
yes.
don't know.
Happy to hear that.
It would depend on which one, but yeah, sure.
Of course,
I think at the very least,
they're all like wildly different from each other, and some of them are more ridiculous than others. But yeah,
just play it up. Really, really screw with all of us. It'll be great.
So walk into a reading and just stand in the back of the room.
I can do it in my best Russian accent. I'm sorry. I apologize for what happened.
No, you walk in with some tarot cards and say, I heard this was an author reading, and you pull out a death tarot card and hand it to someone.
Yes, you know, I used to
the
read
death card. Makes me laugh.
It's here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I used to read tarot like for extra cash and a lot for this group of actresses that I made friends with because they were all hanging out at the same bar next to the local National Theater, and I was hanging out at that bar, and we made friends. And for some reason, they all like fully believed in tarot as a way to predict the future, right? I just believed in tarot as a way of sort of doing therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would tell me about their problems. I would read things in the cards, and those things would sort of relate to their problems and help them, reach some conclusions. For me, it was all just, if it helps you, I'm happy to do it. But I used to be like the tarot reader of the region for a while. I sort of ended up in that position accidentally. So yeah, that's one of my many occult adjacent stories.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
James starts scribbling down, have Alex do tarot readings at Spirited. All right. So
easy. I'm so good at that stuff. Absolutely. As long as nobody asks me whether I believe any of it, I'm so good at it.
Okay, but see that ties so. This is so off topic from the movie, but this ties so directly to my view of religion overall. Like, I take a lot of shots at religion on this show, but like, I view it very much like what you just said. If it's making you feel better and it's giving you this, like, like that's where I'm okay with religion. If it's just a path and it's just like this thing, like a guide that you kind of need, it's when it becomes, what it normally is, that I take shots at it. And I find it fascinating how much occult stuff really
similar to
mirrors.
that.
Yeah, it's so similar and so entwined with religion. And
not to get myself canceled twice on one episode, but no, it's not similar. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's quite literally the same thing. It's just a fiction that we create in order to make sense of things and to make us feel like we have control over things. That's it. Speaking as a teenager who was deeply living a very bad life and a horrible life, and who used occult stuff to get out of that to some degree and to feel like she had some control over things, I went through this whole phase when I was like 15, 16 of reading everything by Aleister Crowley and reading all of the Keys of Solomon and doing all of that stuff. I probably spent hours staring at a crystal, willing my brain to move it, fully thinking that if I do that for long enough, eventually I'm going to make the fucking thing move. It's just a way to assert control over your life and to explain things. And in that sense, it can be so incredibly useful and cathartic and helpful and help you get through stuff. And I've seen religion do that to people too, where, somebody that I don't think would have been reached by any other means managed to clean up their life and managed to make a difference and managed to become, somebody good to the people around them because of religion. So I can't take shots at it too hard, even though I want to, because in some cases it does make a big difference. Especially in, weirdly enough, the more extreme cases, the more of a good difference and positive impact it makes. It also screws people up, drastically.
Yeah, I had that conversation with my mom. She was visiting this past week, and I have to remind her, I'm like, we aren't religious. Like I said, I believe in everybody following their own path, but I said, we are not. If my daughter gets older and she decides, I want to be a Christian or Jewish or Muslim or, anything, Hindu, whatever. Right. I'm like, that's going to be her choice. I'm, but the thing is, you have to have ownership and agency. So it's your body, your mind, your path. And I will never, the only time I crap on somebody's perspective is when their perspective is based on hurting other people. Yeah. So if your religion, if your religion is, I believe that poor people should suffer and, they're not entitled to any type of help or, because I hear all types of weird stuff lately about what people are making, I'm not going to give this person any money on the street. They might use it for alcohol. Then you don't give a shit about charity.
Oh, yeah. People twist religion into all sorts of weird knots, which just further proves that it's a control thing. They don't want religion. They want whatever they can do to feel more in control of their life. And for some of them, that's not helping poor people. That's, not doing the things that hypothetically religion encourages us to do. So, which is actually really, if you think about it, it's very much representative of this character's like inside and outside life, because inside he's got this religion going on his inside, in his own imagination. He's following something he believes in, and that can only be a good thing. On the outside, that has some really negative consequences on everybody around him because he believes so strongly in this one thing. And that's very much what's happening with people out there. The difference between what the teachings are and what the preachings are and what the actual actions are is sometimes absolutely enormous. And clap for the way I managed to bring it back to this episode.
I had my hands right here. I was like, do it.
That was skillful. Yeah.
Plus, it's also the aspect, and I guess we're going to end it here. It's also the aspect of you don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
And so part of religion is trying to make sense of what's out there, not just, your own struggles or trying to figure out exactly, using whatever supernatural powers, belief, whatever, to assist you in your life. But also, like I said, from that conversation with my mom, it was, I want to believe in something because I don't want to think that I'm just here and then I'm gone. And I immediately told her, I'm like, that's fine. Like, we don't know. So it's perfectly fine for you to believe in that sense of like, there's something else out there, because that's what the vast majority of people, even if they don't hold on to a religion, there's something out there. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to tell anybody else that they're wrong. It's simply, this is what I believe things to be. Like me personally, what my thing on death is, I think you go somewhere else. You might get reincarnated. You might be nothing. I just don't know. And the thing is, I can't, kind of like Rupert Grint's character. It's I don't have time to spend that much time worrying on whether or not, me going after my sister is going to work. This is something I believe in, like you brought up. This is something I believe in, and this is something I have to do.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some bad unintended consequences as far as with respect to relationships, partnerships, money, things like that. But I'm so focused on what this is. It's the same way that some people seem to ignore things intentionally or unintentionally that are going on in regular life because they're so focused on whatever their religion states or the doctrine states or people around them have stated about life. And you can see how that becomes a negative thing where people might become apathetic or just completely ignorant of what other people are going through.
Yep. The thing that's most fascinating about this to me is like what you were talking about earlier, how, nobody's actually prepared for, okay, what happens if you make it? And just like Walter isn't prepared for that. Like he spent his life doing this and he, on some level, probably wasn't actually expecting it to ever work. No matter how much he was selling it to us that he believes, on some level, I don't think he was expecting it to work. I think he was ready to die trying this. And if you think about it, imagine if all of these people, here in Romania, going into their Roman Orthodox, Greek Orthodox churches and praying, and tomorrow morning at Mass, God actually shows up. All the things that they're praying about and hoping happen and believe in actually materialize in front of them. None of them are prepared for that. Nobody's prepared for that. It would be chaos. It would be a disaster. It would be, deep down, I think people are hoping that doesn't happen because nobody's ready for that. And I get that feeling from Walter so much that when it actually happened, he had no idea what to do with it.
No, and then he realized he was screwed.
So screwed. Yeah. He was so screwed. Not even just the ending which screwed him. Just when he got what he wanted, he was so screwed. But speaking of the ending, I want to know whether James liked the ending.
Oh boy. So to do that, we got to back up some.
Okay.
So first, I want to hit you with the things that I don't overly like about this. Just little complaints,
no, I'm not
mostly.
Sure we have
that'll get me to the end. Oh, we do. We have plenty of time. So
no, we don't have that long.
We do. We have all the time in the world. This is gonna be our longest episode. It's gonna be great. So my first little tiny complaint is that when they're in the forest, this forest that supposedly keeps people who aren't ready to die, right? Yeah. There's like nobody in it.
I know, right?
There's this one girl who died like 25 years ago.
It turns out people ever since then have been way more prepared than you were expecting.
Totally. They're like, oh, you don't want to be like that girl.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared.
That's all it took. One good example and they're with it.
It really felt weird to me that it's not full of people. Like he should have to be like looking for the right girl. And then you could hit like this thing.
It should be like the Tinder of ghosts.
There you go. Swipe left. He's literally pushing them out of your way, right? Like you're swiping people by throwing them.
All of a sudden, it's H.P. Lovecraft meets Black Mirror.
But like, it just felt weird to me that she's the only one there. There's the painter who can seem to come and go, and then there's the witch. But like, what the hell? Like, how did it take him to the right place with the right person? I don't buy it.
All right, here's my theory because. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, this is gonna be long. So go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say my theory on this is he can only, aside from those people who have the magic, right? He can only find the person that has some type of connection with. That's the only way I rationalize it.
Which means that every individual person who hasn't passed on has their own individual sort of hell or limbo or whatever.
Yeah,
they each have their own, and he's in hers for some reason. The witch is also there, but more or less everybody has their own, right? That's kind of the theory.
Like all those other people are there already. I mean, as far as like the witch and the painter and stuff like that, right? So they happen to be there. It's just that he can only connect with somebody, a real person, Not saying that they're not real people, but just somebody who doesn't have some type of supernatural ability. Like whatever I see, whatever I paint comes true, or the idea of, the witch there. But the idea that the only person that you'd be able to see, or only people you'd be able to see, are the people that you have some type of connection with. So I look at it as it's his twin. So of course that's going to be the person that he can connect and see. Whereas if he's a regular, as far as like he happens to go, he's not going to see anybody because he's not supposed to be there.
I mean, it does feel like we're trying really hard to explain this, because then then is she seeing anybody else, or is she just seeing him too? Which means
then the witch wouldn't be there. No, this doesn't work for me.
Because I'm good. I'm good.
I was trying to rationalize.
I'm good with everybody having their own individual afterlife. That's what I used to believe in before being a nihilist. Actually, that's why I fully believe that we would get to have something after, but that we would be having it alone and just making up our own people in our own minds. It was really depressing. Now that I mention it, that was really depressing. But I'm good with that. But then she shouldn't see the witch and he shouldn't see the witch.
Yeah.
But let's assume that they have their individualized.
The painter shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and the witch and the painter kind of just crashed the party. Let's go with that.
Yeah, no, I don't buy it. But also,
we'll give it to you for free if you're not buying it.
So before I just yell, "Why are they Native Americans, you racist fucks?" Let me just say, I don't believe.
Touch on that.
I don't believe that the people with liquid gold are all twins, and so they're able to get in. No, I don't know what this twin story was supposed to do. It's not fleshed out. It doesn't make any sense.
It was supposed to
I don't think it's twins.
And it wasn't anything in the end, was it?
I don't think it's twins. I think it just means an alive person and a dead person. And I think he projected twins onto it because the artist who drew it was very bad, drew the people the exact same. So he assumed they were twins. But let me just say, Native Americans, what the fuck? This is not in Lovecraft's story, so this was added, which means it's like 2020, 21, 22, whenever they filmed this, and they were like, oh, hey, you know who should have the liquid gold? Native Americans, obviously. And they were like, oh, yeah.
I would
great.
really love to, let's say, a generous perspective on this. I would love to have a conversation with the person who made that specific decision, that little micro decision of either the writing or the casting or the directing, because this could have come from anybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to talk to them and see if they have a reason that I hadn't thought of or something, if they have some sort of deeper motivation that I'm just not figuring out, because I'm not figuring it out. I've looked and I haven't found it. I need help to find it.
It bothers me so much. And so that brings me...
The story would have been exactly the same without that aspect. The story would have also been exactly the same without the twins thing. They could have just been siblings, right? Completely same story.
Mm-hmm.
Go out on a limb with me again on this one. Is it just me, or is the witch also kind of thrown in there without actually really doing much?
Absolutely.
Right? The story would have been the same without the witch.
And then they did this weird thing where they tried to make her sympathetic for some fucking reason. And they were like, oh, she was slaughtered and killed. And then they put her bones in this house. And like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You have this monster. Like, I don't understand the rationale of trying to make her, give her like this backstory. It's so weird.
Had the rat. Right? We could have just had the rat. We didn't actually need the witch at that point.
Well, and so that's another thing. But really fast, let me go back. So the original story it doesn't have a sister. He's just a guy who's obsessed with math and basically using math to figure out how to open this door to the afterlife. I mean, it's been years since I read it, so it's probably not exact, but the whole story takes place in this house.
Am I remembering the right story? Because also I haven't read Lovecraft in ages, and I didn't want to read this stuff on purpose because I wanted to have opinions on the episodes, not on the stories. Yeah. But now that you mention it, is this the story with like the, I don't know, artist or architect or something who keeps seeing that the corners of the room don't meet correctly?
Yes.
No, it's that story. That has nothing to do with any of this stuff.
That's my point.
That's such
Why
a
did they
different
name this
story.
after this? But if you were going to go with that, that is such a much more interesting story. And that could have been really cool. You don't
That's
need
just
all
this
this
one
other
guy losing his
added
shit in a
shit.
limited setting, right? It's a limited setting, limited cast. One guy losing his shit with reality, basically. That's the story.
Yes.
Oh, I would have liked that.
But so I just don't understand. Like, if this was a movie released on its own and you threw
Mhm.
Lovecraft on it, I would get it. It's a name. It makes people go, "Oh, I got to see this.
Yeah.
They'll never get it right, but let me throw down my money." But this is just another episode in this show that you're not starting at episode 6
Yeah.
and only watching that. So
Nobody
I don't
would-
understand why they named it this, why they threw Lovecraft in here. You could have just made this its own story,
Mm.
and I think that it would flow better. I think we have these preconceived notions of what it should be, and then it's kind of a mess, at least at the end.
Mm.
I didn't really think about any sort of what it should have been. Obviously, I didn't even make the connection to which story it was supposed to be until just now. And even so, it does give you that feeling like it has a bunch of elements and it's just kind of messy and you're not sure whether they were all sure they belonged there, right? Whether they were all rowing in the same direction. I do get that
Right.
feeling of a fair bit.
So let me ask you guys this, because you brought up we could have
Yeah.
just had the rat. Was the rat screwing the witch, or did he capitalize on the moment? Like, was his plan all along?
Oh God, I
To-
thought you meant like
to be the one.
sexually. I thought you were the rat and the witch were having a sexual relationship.
That's a very different story, and that's why
I
he
don't know
needed
what to
Ron's
tell you.
body.
Just phrase the questions better.
Okay, so was he setting out to betray the witch, or did he capitalize on the moment when it showed up?
I mean, it's hard not to make the connection to the Harry Potter rat. So it makes me want to say he always was intending on screwing everybody, to use your phrasing. But I have no idea whether I get that feeling because of the Harry Potter rat or because it's actually in this episode. I can't tell anymore. Which is the danger of referencing stuff too much. I no longer know for sure whether I'm reading into you or into your reference, and I don't like
Mm.
that.
What do you think, Don?
I'm with you. It's the last few minutes were just confusing.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
but even with the rat, I don't fully I don't know if it's an issue of like he just wanted a human body. He wanted to, screw over the witch.
Thank you.
It's like I didn't
Sorry,
I didn't care for the direction it went at the end.
Yeah. I mean, I do
That's
like
weird.
the ending itself, like the very end that where Walter ends up actually like being ridden by the rat. That specific element of it, where the rat's now out in the world using Walter's body. I like that part. Stop it, James. Now you're thinking of things.
I love that part. You said he was riding his body.
Yeah.
Anyway, God damn you. I gotta say, when this episode started and we get the I promise you a happy ending, I was like, why is Rupert like not sound like Rupert? And if you would have had anyone else in that role instead of like a pretty famous, person that we all know what he sounds like,
We might have missed it.
yeah. And I think in a way, like most people probably wrote it off, but like it just felt weird to me. I was like, this is a voice like people grew up on and people like, obsessively watch these movies. We know that's not Rupert talking. What a weird thing to put here.
Yeah.
And so then when the end hit, I was like, I still really like this. I feel like if it was somebody we didn't know, that would have just breezed by me and I wouldn't have paid attention to it at all.
Mm.
The ending is definitely correct. That's the thing that annoys me. Like the ending is right. It just feels like the episode took too many steps compressed into too small a space to get to that ending. Because the start is fascinating and the ending is right. It's just the middle bits that go all over the place.
I really do think a lot of it is just the pacing's all off, the lighting's terrible. No, I'm kidding. No, I do think it's just like you said, we could have just had the rat, and I think it would be a stronger story.
Yeah,
I know why the witch is there. I get that she's cool looking or whatever, but like that whole scene in the church was pointless. And
the rat could have been a wizard in his past life. There, problem solved, all the mysteries explained.
Boom.
That's why he's in this situation. Game over.
Ron's looking at his map and he's like, holy crap, he's in my room. Yeah.
We could have spent way more time focusing on the good stuff that we all loved. The psychics pretending to be psychics to con people and them investigating that stuff. That was fascinating and I loved it.
And that's a great scene when he walks backstage and she's complaining. That was such a good scene. I would love more of that.
I would love more of that. Why is it that we are almost more fascinated with these con artists pretending to be spiritists than we are by the actual concept of spiritist? At least I am. For some reason, I'm absolutely fascinated. I would love to read 60 books in that sort of setting and world.
Because we're jaded individuals.
Because we find the human psyche compelling. I like to put a positive spin on it.
I think it's also the idea of we can't fully understand what's out there as far as in that supernatural world, right?
Yeah.
Whereas we know that there are con artists, there are charlatans, there are people that are out there to trick you for their financial, political, social benefit. So it's almost the aspect of trying to figure out why people would be like that, other than people suck. and that's the type of thing that they do.
I suspect that there's another element to it too, which I really deeply love. And it's that the more we see con artists and charlatans pretending to be spiritists, on some level, the more it makes us feel like the real thing has to be out there somewhere. Because if the real thing wasn't there, why would all of these people, all of these different people somehow converge into pretending to be it? What is it? What's the reference we're taking from? That's a fascinating question to me. It's also why do so many people have this irrational fear of clowns? What was it in our biological past that made human beings see clowns and go, fuck no, I need to get away from that? Right? We've got these mirror images in our reactions, in our interests, in our fears. What are they actually originating from? And that's why I think con spiritists are fascinating, because they hint at something else, maybe.
And then one day you get an invitation and you and a group of random people get to go to an old man's mansion and see the real thing. And we'll talk about it next week when we look at Cabinet of Curiosities, Episode 7, The Viewing. In the meantime, this concludes another episode of the Necronomicon.com.